Welcome back to Crypto Equation. And today we are stepping into one of the most asked, most emotional, and most misunderstood questions in the entire XRP community. A question that ignites hope, fear, curiosity, and debate. How much XRP do you actually need for financial freedom? It is a question that sounds simple but contains layers of psychology, economics, expectations, and misunderstanding. Because financial freedom is not a number. It is a position inside a system. It is a relationship with certainty, stability, opportunity, and long-term awareness. And when people ask how much XRP they need, what they are really asking is whether they are positioned inside the transformation happening to global money. The truth is that nobody can define financial freedom for another person because financial freedom is not a price prediction. Financial freedom is a shift in your relationship with the world. It is the moment when opportunity is not restricted by fear. It is the moment when you are not trapped by systems that hold you still. It is the moment when your decisions are driven by choice, not survival. So the real question behind how much XRP you need is this: how much of the future financial system do you need to participate in before the world realizes the old system is dissolving? Because XRP is not simply an asset. It is a position inside the architecture of the next era of value movement. And the amount someone holds is not about wealth. It is about alignment with a world being rebuilt in real time. To understand how much XRP someone might want for their own definition of financial freedom, we must break the question down into its true components, not emotional components, structural components. Because when you strip emotion away, the question becomes far more profound. You are really asking three things: what world is being built? What role will XRP play inside that world? And how much exposure do you want to that role? Let us begin with the first layer of the world being built. The global financial system today is painfully outdated. It is slow, fragmented, extremely expensive, and unable to support the demands of modern digital life. Cross-border transactions take days. Liquidity is trapped in accounts around the world. Messaging systems carry incomplete data. Settlement requires multiple intermediaries. And the entire system operates like a relic in a world that has already moved on. This world cannot support the next decade of global commerce. It cannot support tokenized assets. It cannot support programmable money. It cannot support AI-driven automation. It cannot support global real-time markets. It cannot support digital identity integrated payments. The system must evolve, and it is evolving. We are witnessing the largest financial upgrade in modern history. Institutions migrating to real-time rails. Governments building digital currency frameworks. Central banks researching tokenized settlement. Payment networks adopting ISO messaging. Corporations moving toward automated financial infrastructure. The world is rebuilding its foundation. And this foundation is the root of the XRP question. Because if the future is a world of instant settlement, frictionless liquidity, and interoperable digital value, then what you hold today is not an investment. It is a position inside that world. The second layer of the question is understanding the role XRP plays inside this system. XRP is not designed to be a speculative asset. It is designed to be a settlement instrument, a neutral digital bridge between fragmented systems. It is designed to move value at the speed of data. It is designed to support corridors where liquidity is needed instantly. It is designed to reduce the cost of global movement. It is designed for the financial internet, not the financial past. This means your XRP holdings are not a bet on price. They are a connection to settlement architecture, and the amount you hold reflects the extent to which you want to be present inside the future of global value movement. The third layer of the question is the most personal and the most misunderstood: how much exposure you need to feel positioned for the future. This is why no single number can define the answer, because every person has a different idea of freedom, a different level of responsibility, a different tolerance for uncertainty, a different vision of financial independence, a different belief about the world being built. But this does not mean the question is meaningless. It means the question must be reframed from how much XRP will make me financially free to how much XRP represents my alignment with a future where global settlement will be instant, intelligent, automated, and interconnected. Now let us go deeper into the meaning of financial freedom. Financial freedom is not wealth. It is stability. It is clarity. It is the ability to move through life without being trapped by systems that extract your time in exchange for survival. Financial freedom is a structural shift, not an emotional one. The amount of XRP someone believes they need is based on their understanding of three forces: the speed of global transformation, the design of modern financial rails, and their own philosophy of preparation. To explore this, we must break down the psychological layers behind the number chosen by many in the community. People often gravitate to holdings like 1,000 XRP, 3,000 XRP, 10,000 XRP or more, because these numbers feel symbolic. They feel like thresholds. They feel like categories inside the future financial system. But the truth is, these thresholds have nothing to do with mathematics. They are feelings disguised as numbers. Financial freedom is not a number, it is a position. The more aligned you are with global modernization, the more confident you feel in your position. Now let us examine why this question feels heavier for XRP holders than for holders of other digital assets. XRP is tied to systemic transformation. It is tied to institutional modernization. It is tied to national financial architecture. It is tied to payment rails that the world depends on. Most digital assets exist in markets driven by speculation. XRP exists in a world driven by necessity. This is why people become emotionally attached to the idea of XRP providing financial freedom, because they sense that owning a piece of this system gives them exposure to something that transcends typical market cycles. But once again, the question is not really about how much XRP will change your life. The real question is how much of the future you feel prepared to participate in. Now we must break down the three pillars that determine someone's answer: the personal pillar, the structural pillar, and the psychological pillar. The personal pillar represents your lifestyle, your obligations, your goals, your responsibilities, and the level of freedom you seek. Someone who wants stability might need a different amount than someone who wants generational autonomy. The structural pillar represents the global financial system being built. As settlement systems shift and tokenized markets emerge, the value of assets integrated into those systems evolves with them. The psychological pillar represents your perception of preparedness. Some people feel secure holding 1,000 XRP. Others feel secure holding 10,000. Others feel secure holding much less or much more. The number is a reflection of their relationship with uncertainty. Now let us go deeper into a crucial truth that most people ignore. Your XRP holdings do not create financial freedom by themselves. Your understanding of the world creates it. Because when you understand the world being built, you stop thinking in terms of fear. When you understand global modernization, you stop thinking in terms of impatience. When you understand settlement architecture, you stop thinking in terms of speculation. Financial freedom begins with clarity. Your XRP holdings are simply a symbol of that clarity. Now let us turn to why this question is so emotionally charged. People are not really asking about XRP. They are asking about their future. They are asking about whether they positioned themselves early enough. They are asking whether they recognized the transformation before it became mainstream. They are asking whether they prepared for a world that will not resemble the past. Financial freedom is often associated with timing, but financial freedom in the digital era is associated with awareness. The earlier you understand the transformation happening, the more aligned your decisions become. Now let us explore a deeper idea, the concept of digital leverage. Digital leverage is not debt. Digital leverage is not risk. Digital leverage is the advantage gained by aligning yourself with the foundational systems of the future before the world realizes their value. Owning XRP is a form of digital leverage because it places you inside the rails of the future before those rails become globally activated. This is why people believe their XRP holdings connect them to financial freedom, not because of potential price, but because of potential relevance. Now we must explore the global layer, because this layer is the true engine behind the XRP question. The world is moving toward instant settlement, borderless liquidity, tokenized financial assets, programmable value, artificial intelligence, driven finance, ISO 2022, messaging standards, digital identity integrated payments, cross-border systems without friction. Each of these trends increases the relevance of systems built for real-time settlement. And XRP is one of the few digital assets with architecture aligned to these trends. This is why the question of how much XRP you need is actually a question of how much of this future you want exposure to. Now let us explore the tipping point. The tipping point is the moment when global systems fully activate instant settlement. This moment redefines the demand for assets used inside these systems. This moment redefines the perception of utility. This moment redefines the relationship between infrastructure and value. This moment redefines what financial freedom looks like in a world built on real-time digital value. Many XRP holders feel that once the tipping point arrives, their holdings will reflect alignment with a world most people are not prepared for. Now let us explore a crucial truth the market does not yet understand: XRP. It does not understand settlement architecture. It does not understand tokenized liquidity. It does not understand the purpose of a neutral bridging asset. It does not understand the design of real-time financial systems. This means XRP is currently priced by traders who focus on the present not by systems that will rely on it in the future. This disconnect creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates questions about financial freedom. Now let us look at the deeper psychological meaning behind the question. When you ask how much XRP you need for financial freedom, you are really asking whether you have done enough to protect your future. You are asking whether you are positioned inside a world that will be unrecognizable in 10 years. You are asking whether your awareness will translate into stability in the digital era. Financial freedom is not something XRP gives you. It is something you give yourself by understanding the transformation happening in global finance and positioning yourself accordingly. Your XRP is a symbol, not a guarantee, a position, not a prediction, a reflection of your belief in the future, not a promise of outcome. In the second half of this script, we will go even deeper into the psychology behind the numbers, the structural patterns shaping XRP's future, the global shift driving long-term relevance, and how to define your own blueprint for financial freedom without relying on speculation or unrealistic expectations. Because now that we understand the foundation of XRP's volatile price behavior, we must go deeper into the psychology and intention behind the movements, because staying alert is not about predicting pumps or panics. It is about understanding the signals hidden beneath the noise. Long-term holders survive, not because they avoid volatility, but because they learn to interpret it. Manipulation only affects those who cannot see the structure beneath the movement. And this structure becomes more visible the deeper you look into how XRP behaves during accumulation periods, distribution cycles, liquidity hunts, and suppression phases. The first thing long-term holders must understand is that markets create predictable emotional patterns, and XRP's community is one of the most emotionally reactive in the digital asset space. This gives traders a powerful advantage because any group that reacts predictably becomes easy to exploit. When fear rises, liquidity dries up. When hope rises, liquidity floods in. When uncertainty spreads, liquidity becomes scattered. Traders exploit this rhythm. They create volatility not to harm holders, but to extract liquidity from predictable emotional reactions. This leads us to the second layer of the blueprint engineered accumulation. Many of XRP's largest upward movements historically occur after long periods of controlled price action. During these periods, price stays inside small predictable ranges while volume quietly increases. This is not random. It is not accidental. It is the market preparing for future demand. Accumulation phases look like manipulation because they suppress price, but they are actually preparation phases where liquidity gets redistributed from impatient hands to patient hands. The third blueprint element is volatility harvesting. When the market senses emotional extremes, it triggers opposite movements. When optimism becomes excessive, algorithms sell. When fear becomes excessive, algorithms buy. This creates the illusion that someone is deliberately punishing retail traders. But the real force behind it is automated liquidity harvesting. XRP's large community and high emotional engagement make it a prime target for this behavior. The fourth blueprint element is systemic uncertainty. XRP spent years under legal tension, and this uncertainty created unique opportunities for volatility exploitation. Traders thrive in uncertainty. Institutions wait for clarity. Retail reacts emotionally. This imbalance created a playground where price was driven by speculation rather than long-term fundamentals. The fifth blueprint element is institutional patience. Institutions do not buy at the top. They accumulate slowly during uncertainty. They accumulate when the narrative is negative. They accumulate when volatility creates fear. And they accumulate when retail traders exit. This pattern is visible throughout XRP's entire history, and it is one of the strongest indicators that long-term value is not determined by short-term chaos. Now let us explore the psychology behind the phrase "stay alert," because staying alert does not mean panic. It does not mean fear. It does not mean expecting disaster. Staying alert means understanding how structural transformation influences short-term price behavior. It means watching the right signals and ignoring the noise. The first signal long-term holders must watch is global financial modernization. Every major region upgrading its payment systems is a signal. Every country adopting digital messaging standards is a signal. Every institution exploring tokenized settlement is a signal. These signals point toward a future where real-time global settlement becomes normal and XRP's architecture becomes increasingly relevant. The second signal is liquidity migration. As global liquidity shifts toward digital rails and tokenized systems, the assets built for fast settlement will gain structural relevance. XRP is one of the few assets engineered for this exact purpose. The third signal is regulatory progression. As more countries finalize digital asset frameworks, the infrastructure for legal settlement using digital assets expands. This environment increases the long-term utility of assets like XRP. Now let us go deeper into the hidden mechanics behind the scenes, the patterns that look like manipulation, but are actually the market preparing for long-term structural transformation. One of these patterns is the long suppression range. XRP spends extended periods in narrow price corridors, while global settlement technology evolves in the background. These ranges frustrate emotional investors, but strengthen the long-term structure by preventing disorderly price discovery before institutional demand activates. Another hidden mechanic is controlled volatility release. The market often holds XRP inside tight ranges before releasing large directional moves. This is not random. It is a combination of liquidity, build-up institutional testing, and algorithmic positioning. Long-term holders recognize these patterns and remain patient rather than reactive. Now let us expose one of the most important forces shaping XRP's price: institutional invisibility. Institutions rarely move in visible ways. They test quietly, they accumulate quietly, they integrate quietly. Most long-term infrastructure adoption happens behind closed doors. This creates a strange paradox. Retail investors often mistake silence for failure when silence is actually preparation. The blueprint teaches that what the public does not see often matters more than what they do see. Now let us explore the future-oriented side of the blueprint, because market manipulation only appears powerful in markets dominated by speculation. Once utility activates, manipulation loses influence. The future of XRP lies not in speculative trading, but in settlement architecture. Once XRP begins serving the system it was designed for, price discovery will shift from speculation to utility. Utility-driven price discovery looks nothing like speculative-driven price discovery. Speculative price discovery is chaotic, emotional, and unpredictable. Utility-driven price discovery is stable, structured, and demand-driven. This is why long-term holders focus on global modernization, not short-term volatility. Now let us turn to the emotional core of this video, the reason retail needs to stay alert. You must stay alert because markets are designed to shake out the unprepared. You must stay alert because the strongest hands win in long cycles. You must stay alert because the greatest opportunities appear during uncertainty. You must stay alert because the world is moving into the system XRP was built for. The blueprint teaches that staying alert means knowing which forces matter and which do not. Global settlement matters. Real-time liquidity matters. Financial messaging standards matter. Cross-border innovation matters. Tokenized asset settlement matters. Utility matters. Short-term volatility does not. Fear cycles do not. Emotional manipulation does not. Now let us examine how long-term infrastructure changes remove the appearance of manipulation entirely. Once settlement systems run on digital rails, once liquidity becomes mobile, once institutions activate demand, once tokenized value requires instant settlement, market forces begin behaving differently. The more useful XRP becomes, the less manipulable its price becomes. Utility is the antidote to speculation. Utility is the antidote to volatility. Utility is the antidote to fear cycles. Utility is the antidote to emotional manipulation. This is why understanding XRP's role in global finance protects long-term holders from reacting to the wrong signals. Now let us conclude with the deepest truth beneath the entire blueprint. People call it manipulation when they do not understand the structure. People call it suppression when they do not understand the purpose. People call it chaos when they do not understand the timeline. XRP is not a typical asset. It is an infrastructural component of the next era of global settlement. Its price behavior reflects a system caught between speculation and utility, caught between present and future, caught between noise and architecture. The blueprint teaches one final lesson. Stay alert, not because danger is coming, but because opportunity is forming. Stay alert, not because markets are corrupt, but because transformation creates friction. Stay alert, not because manipulation controls the future, but because understanding controls your perspective. The long-term truth is simple. Speculation creates chaos. Infrastructure creates clarity. And XRP was built for clarity, not chaos. In the second half of this script, we will go even deeper into the psychology behind the numbers, the structural patterns shaping XRP's future, the global shift driving long-term relevance, and how to define your own blueprint for financial freedom without relying on speculation or unrealistic expectations.